And he said he went up into the roof and like hid in the rafters, like, and wrapped himself. And he said it was the middle of the day and he was baking, and he said he could hear the uncontacted tribes underneath him. And he was like trying to make the decision of, do I kill myself like a dog in a car in this heat? Like he knew he was going to die, or do I go down and let them rip me apart? And it was just the most terrifying story. But yeah, like that.
How did he get out of it?
He waited it out. I mean, he'd already been shot in the head, so he was like, I know what's going to happen if I go down there.
Wow.
Also, then everyone's going to come after me for calling them uncontacted. Apparently that's an outdated term. Apparently the correct parlance these days is voluntarily isolated indigenous nomadic persons.
Let's stick with uncontacted.
Can we just call them uncontacted?
You, man, for making me remember all that. It's so silly.
Yeah, so that's so true. I mean, there's always going to be these modern day sticklers that are very particular about giving everything a hyper correct name, which I guess in this case, calling them voluntarily isolated indigenous nomadic people is correct. And over the last 500 years, it's probably very likely that probably each and every one of these indigenous tribes in the Amazon has come into contact with the modern world through one means or another, and that they have chosen to isolate themselves. That's probably true. But I don't think there's anything wrong with just calling them uncontacted. I don't know that that's a derogatory term in any way, shape, or form. Now, one of the things that Paul actually does address in this video is the reason for which these uncontacted tribes choose to sink back into the dark depths of the jungle and remain hidden from the modern world. In the conquering of the Americas, there were so many major events and periods of life in certain regions that have just fallen through the cracks of time. And you have to track them down in diaries and original documents, which is very difficult. So much history never actually makes its way into public knowledge, even just a century later, especially not in the remote rivers branching out from the Amazon in the early 1900s. But European explorers who emerged from the jungles along what they thought were uncharted areas of the Amazon riverways ended up discovering that South American rubber companies were launching covert rubber farming operations deep in the Amazon by capturing and enslaving native people. Now you have to think, this enslavement and these slave trades and these indigenous people being forced to farm rubber is very recent in their ancestral memory. But what's not so recent, that I bet you they still have legends and ancestral nightmares about, is the early colonial period. You have to realize that in the first 50 years of European contact with the Americas, more than 90% of the Americas was wiped out by either genocide and mass murder, but more than likely, the vast majority of Native Americans were killed by waves and waves and waves of plagues that were carried over from Europe. It's estimated that anywhere around 90% of the Native Americans living in 1491 were dead by the mid 1500s, definitely by the year 1600. And those estimated casualties are somewhere around 100 million Native Americans. And in the Amazon alone, the estimated casualties are around 2 million to 10 million. Just like today, we really have no idea just how many millions of people were living in the Amazon, and we have no idea how many thousands of people are still living there today. But these native people, I bet you, have an ancestral memory or legends of some kind of this period of just mass extinction in the Amazon.
Now, how many uncontacted tribes are they aware of?
I think there's like over 100 different groups across the Amazon.
So we really have no idea just how vast these uncontacted tribes really are. And we don't really have any way to differentiate themselves among each other other than, well, I see people 100 miles this way and another 100 miles this way, so I assume that they're two different tribes, but really we have absolutely no idea and no really great way to give an accurate estimate as to how many people are currently living like people were thousands of years ago in the Amazon today. If you look it up, people try to give estimates of around 10,000 people still living nomadically or indigenously in the Amazon. But I would venture to say that those estimates, like the estimates of how many native people were in the Americas in 1491, the year before Columbus arrived, to be probably drastically lower than they really are. We almost never see their elderly or their children. And with these tribes being the most resilient people to ever live in the Amazon, they probably invented a way to build entire cities beneath the jungle canopy as to not be seen from the sky, because by this point, I'm sure all of the Amazonian tribes are aware of the fact that there is this other world beyond the blanket of the jungle canopy that sometimes can see them from the sky, like some kind of nature-defying force that their ancestors have told them to stay away from and to never allow themselves to be seen because they'll be enslaved and dragged away forever. I mean, again, the European plagues that came into the Americas killed over 100 million Native Americans and anywhere from 2 to 10 million Amazonians just about 500 years ago. So I'm sure that they still remember that. And their deep ancestral memory has taught them to stay hidden. So now they forever hide in the shadows deep within the heart of the Amazon jungle. And because of everything that the Amazonians have been through, the unfortunate explorers who go into the Amazon and come across these uncontacted tribes usually get the sharp end of an arrow. All that said, within the next year, I definitely do plan on venturing deep into the heart of the Amazon, as there are several archaeological sites out there that I would love to see with my own eyes. And I think that the Amazon really probably is the last remaining secret and the key to understanding the ancient Americas, at least South America and Central America, and perhaps even Mesoamerica to a certain extent. It may be the birthplace of civilization in the Americas. And the Amazon, along with the Sahara Desert, are two of the most fascinating places in the entire world, although I think I definitely lean a little more Amazon.